So the Minecraft movie is now out in cinemas, and I'll be honest, this movie was better than I thought it was going to be. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I've certainly seen worse video game movies in recent times. We'll get into spoilers a little bit later on to not ruin it for those of you that are going to go out and watch this movie, but just generally speaking, from a visual standpoint, this movie is fantastic. Everything in the overworld and the nether and all the actual Minecraft-based stuff looks really cool. I know the wildlife and creatures got a little bit memed on when they were first released, but I genuinely think that they themselves look good. It's just when you contrast it with like Jack Black or Jason Momoa stood next to them, it kind of looks a bit weird. Sticking with the positives, as a fan of the games, I really enjoyed seeing the different items being used, so things like the elytras, the ender pearls, even as simple as just watching the characters craft stuff, it was just really cool. Again, goes without saying you obviously need to understand these references to get anything out of it, so if you're not a fan of the game at all, this is going to do nothing for you. But when you make a video game movie, you obviously design it at the people who know and play the video game, so all of these references are a nice touch, and to be honest, there's way more than I thought there was going to be. I think all the actors really gave it their all in this movie. Like, it's not like we were expecting a phoned back performance from anyone, but Jack Black is the most Jack Black I think I've ever seen him. He really is just a ball of energy. And Jason Momoa's character actually wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be. Like, it's kind of weird seeing this badass Khal Drogo play the garbage man. I don't actually remember what his name was, but they called him Gaga a lot in the movie. But again, you could tell he was really having fun with it and just sort of giving it his all, and that came through quite well on the screen. When it does come to the actual story itself, I'll be honest, the first section, the first 10 minutes or so of this movie is basically just a massive exposition dump, which is fine, but it's just not exactly the best way of introducing the world and everything, in my opinion. And then overall, as an overarching story, it is incredibly generic. Essentially, there's a big bad guy, wants to take over the world. Fairly simple stuff. But again, when you think about the audience that this is aimed at, you don't expect a very convoluted and twists and turns in a story such as this. It's going to be nice and simple so that audience can understand it, right? The only argument I potentially make to that is the fact that I've seen sort of video game based or more children based movies before, and they always have an element there for adults as well. So for example, The Wild Robot is a really well done movie and it's great for children, but there's also a lot of adult themes in there which match it and make it just all round a great movie. I feel like that was missing a little bit from this story. I also feel like some of the characters just really didn't need to be in this movie. Like, obviously Jack Black, the main kid, who I think was called Henry, and Jason Momoa steal it the whole time. Like, they are the biggest presences on screen and they have a lot to do in the movie. Also, the main kid's sister, she actually had some things to do. But outside of that, like, Jennifer Coolidge's character, for example, did not need to be in this movie. She didn't really bring anything to it at all. She was obviously in there for a bit of comedic relief, but it just didn't land with me at all. And the character played by Danielle Brooks, I think her name was Dawn, maybe? I don't remember. She literally brought nothing to the movie. I couldn't tell you what she actually did. One thing I really didn't expect was this movie to have musical numbers. Now, it's not quite the levels of Peaches from the Mario movie, but you do just have Jack Black burst into song 3 times in the movie. Really fucking weird, can't lie, really caught me off guard. And I'll be honest, I very much doubt he's going to win an award for any of these performances, but there you go. Outside of that though, I genuinely don't think this movie was as bad as I was expecting. There was some really cool action sequences within it. The visuals were just superb, especially if you are a fan of Minecraft. There is also a mid and post-credit scene, so if you are going to the cinema to see this, don't leave early, because I'll be honest, the post-credit scene especially is actually quite cool. Ultimately, I don't think this movie necessarily had to be good to be successful. I think regardless of how critics and audiences really view it, this is going to make a butt ton of money. Like, it's Minecraft, kids absolutely love it, it's one of the biggest video games of all time. This is going to make money. And if you are a fan of games, I would genuinely recommend watching it just to have a little bit of nostalgia. Like, if you're somebody my age, for example, mid-20s, you've obviously grown up playing Minecraft, so it's quite nice to reminisce and sort of look back at all the stuff that you used to play when you were a kid. And just treat it for what it is. Like, it's not a good movie, but you can still have fun with it, in my opinion. Anyway, getting into spoiler territory, so if you aren't interested in this, you have been warned. Time to click off the video and come back to it after you've seen the movie. So the movie starts out, as I said, with a bunch of exposition. It just follows Steve and basically how he is essentially just a loser on Earth, hates his job. He sells doorknobs, which is a weird fucking thing to have. And he ends up going in this cave that he saw as a kid and mines for a bit, finds these blocks, into the world he goes, right? He ends up taming a dog, building some houses, and finds about the Nether, which is where there's this big evil pig woman. Obviously meant to be like a zombie pigman leader, I suppose, which felt a bit weird in itself. But basically she wants the crystal to destroy the overworld and mine a load of gold out of it, right? Like, it's not exactly a thrilling premise, it's just a simple story, good versus bad type thing. Anyway, Jack Black hides this cube back on Earth, and then we are treated to Jason Momoa's character. Now, throughout all of the promo for this movie, I could not understand what the hell they were trying to do with him. He looked like Dora the Explorer. It was really weird. However, I actually kind of liked what they did with his character in the sense that he was just a complete fucking loser. Honestly, it reminded me a bit of Dr. Disrespect. He just constantly kept referencing that he used to be a previous video game world champion back in the 80s, and that's sort of all the success he's lived off. And every time he said it, I just kept thinking, two-time! Like, I couldn't help it. However, I'm pleased to say that's the only resemblance to Dr. Disrespect they had in the movie. Anyway, he buys Steve's storage unit, which has, like, the cube in it, which can take over the world, essentially. He ends up being befriended by Henry, who is the new kid in school. Him and his sister just moved away from somewhere, I don't remember where, but essentially they've moved in, he's starting a new life at school, he's not got any friends, he ends up hanging out with this dude, and they take the cube and end up opening up the pool. I will say I normally think that child actors in movies are really shit, because, you know, they're kids. I don't think this kid was too bad. He had an annoying little lisp, but it kind of fit the movie, right? The kid must be about 10, so it wasn't the end of the world. Anyway, they all end up in the overworld and they end up meeting Steve. And I will say, Jack Black's character in this is just Jack Black. Granted, I don't know how you're meant to channel the inner Steve from the games when he is a speechless character that you just play as. So I guess they can do whatever they want with him, and they just chose to let Jack Black do Jack Black stuff. Him and Jason Momoa have a really weird rivalry to be like the alpha male of the movie, which is really odd. I mean, let's be honest, if it came to a fight, Jason Momoa would fucking eat Jack Black. But either way, Jack Black is an absolute beast in this movie and like starts like karate kicking zombies and stuff. There is a point where he flies through the air and headbutts a child zombie. Like, that is not something I ever thought I would see on screen. Anyway, the little orb holder thing breaks, so they can't get home, so they have to go to like a woodland mansion to go get one. And during all that, there's a big zombie pigman attack, and everything goes weird. That was something that I actually didn't know, and I don't know if it is the case in the games. When zombie pigmen come through a nether portal, they actually become zombies in the movie. I don't know if that's a thing in the game, it might be. Anyway, there's a massive battle at one of the villages, and the first, like, evil character in terms of, like, the general of the zombie pigmen was a really weird character. Like, I think it was called, like, General Chungus or something, which is just mind-blowing in itself. But the whole character felt really woke. I don't know how else to describe it. It felt really weird. Like, he said he was going to unalive people and stuff. Like, I don't know, it took me out of the movie a little bit. Anyway, from that point, you basically get non-stop action until they get to the Woodland Mansion. You have Jack Black referencing literally every item from Minecraft, which is exactly what I thought would happen based on the trailers, but he will just go like, oh, diamond armor, flint and steel. Like, anything of any reference to Minecraft, he will just say in a very eccentric voice, which was fine, but it got old quick. Now, both Jack Black and the kid in this movie are both really creative people. That's why they both sort of thrive in the overworld as such. So they're really good at, like, crafting things. Like, I'm pretty sure the kid makes, like, a potato gun, essentially, or like a tater tot launcher or something, which is really cool. I like the fact that this movie didn't shy away from making stuff that isn't in the games. You also get that at the end of the movie when you have an Iron Golem that is like combined with boots of swiftness, so it's just a really speedy Iron Golem, which again is really cool to see on screen, I can't lie. So the baddies eventually get the orb and it allows them to all come through the nether portal and essentially start mining gold. That's like the whole objective that they have. So you get a big battle with the Swifty Iron Golem and a load of other ones and all of our main characters. Now, this was where I genuinely, like, laughed out loud. You see Jack Black in a full set of diamond armor, and it is the funniest shit I've ever seen. Honestly, like, it just looks so wrong, but it's so funny. And it's absolutely not meant to be, but I just couldn't contain the laughter at that point. Anyway, the good guys win as you sort of expected, and they end up all going home, and in the end Steve goes with them back to Earth, which I didn't actually expect to happen, but I guess it kind of did make sense given the whole story at that point. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, during this whole movie there is a side plot going on with Jennifer Coolidge, who's essentially the head teacher at the kids' school, and she ends up hitting a villager with her car, dating him, and marrying him, all in the space of a day, I think. Now, you do see this sort of come to an end in the mid-credit scene where they get married and like the villager can speak English and she can speak villager. Again, it's really dumb. I don't think it needed to be in the movie, but I get that kids are going to love that sort of stuff. Outside of that, the proper post-credit scene actually shows Steve going back home, and the person who has bought his house is a ginger girl called Alex, who's obviously the other character in Minecraft. Now, I think the odds are that we're probably going to get a sequel with this movie anyway, but if we do, the odds are it's going to follow both of them, which, again, is quite cool. So, the Minecraft movie, what did you guys think of it? Did you think it was as good or as bad as you thought it was going to be? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you are new here and you have enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you've seen another video sometime soon.